This episode of the CCS After Hours podcast is brought to you by Matt Lees.
Can't we all just talk about games?
I guess not. This episode is also brought to you by the Internet Aristocrat, whose joke we just blatantly stole.
Alright, so for the past couple of weeks, people have been asking us whether or not we're going to comment on the whole Quinnspiracy thing and the hashtag Gamergate campaign that's currently going on. Now, the reason we've remained silent until now is, well, basically there's a couple of reasons. First of all, we're currently in the midst of editing the third Social Justice Warrior podcast, so we simply don't have the time to jump tracks and record, edit, and publish an entirely different video podcast in such a short amount of time. Sorry people, that's just the way it is. Second of all, and this could seem like a weak excuse, but basically there has been so much information released out there that we just didn't have the means or the time to keep up with it. And besides, other people have released various different videos like the Internet Aristocrat, Mundane Mad, etc. So in the meantime, we basically resorted to signal boosting their videos on Facebook, Twitter, and the rest of that social media. And finally, we believe that right now is the best time for us to jump in and drop our 2 cents on the matter, because it seems like we've finally reached that point. And when I say that point, I'm basically alluding to the fact that right now we're essentially at a stalemate. Because on the one hand, you have the gaming community that has done some good. I mean, I want to go on record and say that we are 100% behind the idea of hashtag Gamergate. I love the fact that gamers from different sites and communities and even countries and nations and cultures, they have come together and basically voiced their protest after 2 years of abuse
and the misogyny and that kind of thing.
Yes, after 2 years of being told that they're nothing but worthless cis scum who hates women and stands in the way of progress. Here we have gamers basically saying, enough. I love that.
Absolutely. It's freaking beautiful.
And some good has been done at this point, because we've had The Escapist, and I believe one other site that I currently can't remember, but The Escapist has gone on record. They've released this massive announcement saying that, you know what, you guys are right, we're gonna rework our ethics policy, enough of this cronyism, we're for transparency, and basically just, have faith and we'll try to improve. So that's something. But unfortunately, at the same time, like I said, we are currently at a standoff because the game journalists they've done their best to try to silence and censor any kind of dissent, and once that proved to be useless, what they tried to do is they tried to denounce the whole gamer identity by posting, about 10 articles in the span of 24 hours, decrying gamers as misogynist and claiming that, you know what, you don't really need to worry about the gamers because we have the social justice warriors. They're our new crowd. And it's like, yeah, good luck with that.
It's exactly what Gandhi says. First they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. That's exactly what I'm seeing, because first they laugh at you. That's when they're saying, oh, all of these horrible misogynistic gamers. And of course, they're grouping all gamers as being misogynist, whether they are or they aren't. They're saying that all of these people are sexist. They're all misogynists, and they're
never mind that there's a good portion of these so-called misogynistic gamers who happen to be women.
Yes, that same 47% they keep throwing out. But they keep saying that, all these people are grouped together and they're vilifying a pastime, basically. It's like, all movie watchers, all book readers, or this kind of thing, and it's like, bullshit. So anyways, first they laugh at you, they denounce you, they dismiss you, they push you to the side and say you don't matter.
Yes.
And then second, when you start to matter, then they fight you. And that's exactly what we got going on right now. That's where the gaming press starts pulling out the articles saying, all right, just because of all the rumors and stuff going around about this or that, then it just proves that you guys are horrible. And we need something better. We need the
a new reader, a new audience, a new demographic is what they need.
Right. We need a new demographic because this old one is horrible and misogynistic and just totally morally and ethically bankrupt. And they're standing in the way of progress. And I'm like, what kind of progress? I mean, shit, Anita Sarkeesian for the last several years has been and I honestly hate using Anita Sarkeesian again and again and again. I honestly do, people. I understand. but when you look at her videos, there's so much misinformation. Just watch a Thunderfoot video and just watch how he deconstructs like half of her points. I mean, if there is some sexism in games, I can acknowledge that though, but when you take a game like Hitman and you go out of your way, and in Anita Sarkeesian's video, you go out of your fucking way to kill a couple of pole dancers that you're not supposed to kill. The pole dancers you get penalized for killing.
Yes.
The pole dancers that apparently, according to what Thunderfoot found on YouTube Let's Plays, are characters that no one ever stops and kills and drags around by their ankle and then stuffs into a trunk.
Of course, because that's gonna raise an alarm. The game penalizes you for doing this because they're innocent bystanders, and you're meant to be this professional hitman who has to sneak his way into whatever building it is
and eliminate a target. And usually the target is a despicable person.
Yes, precisely. So Anita essentially went out of her way to break the game, or to break the rules of the game, just to make her point.
Yes. It's like Max and I were talking about earlier, Grand Theft Auto 5, you can kill anybody who's on the streets, basically. You know, man or woman, black, white, Asian, doesn't matter. You know, it's a big sandbox. However, she'll use, like, does she use clips of...
Yeah, she uses clips of prostitutes and how you can beat up prostitutes, completely neglecting the fact that you can essentially fight any kind of NPC in that game. And actually, prostitutes are one of the toughest NPCs in any GTA game, because some pedestrians, they'll just run away. But oftentimes, when I remember like in past GTA games like Vice City or San Andreas, when I would try to fight prostitutes, sometimes they would either fight back or they would be armed with like a knife or even a gun in some cases. So I remember a couple of funny instances when I had to run away because they beat the shit out of me.
But Max, you're a misogynist. You're a horrible human being, Max. You should have went out and beat up other men, because that's the proper thing to do.
Well, look, if it's
in fact, in Grand Theft Auto 6, they need to make it so when you run a car down a sidewalk, the men will go flying over top of your hood though, but you go gently past the female NPCs like they're ghosts. You know.
Well, if that's the case, then we basically get another LA Noire game, because in that game the pedestrians would jump out of your way. You couldn't run over anyone because you're meant to be a police officer, a protector of the people, not, you know, running them down, which would make for an interesting lethal weapon kind of scenario.
Shit.
Yeah.
But still, to go back on track, to take a scene out of a game and totally misconstrue it and make it seem like the mission is to kill these two pole dancers is fucking nuts.
I mean, it's an option, but you gotta be, I mean, you've seen what Anita does with those poor women in that video, how she drags
them around by their ankles and their limp bodies.
Yeah, desecrates their bodies, etc. And the conclusion I've reached is that it's not that the game doesn't encourage you to do it, so it's like, Anita, you're one sick, twisted fuck.
That's what Thunderfoot said. So they totally misconstrued this demographic that they've been blatantly demonizing. And now all of a sudden that same demographic starts growing some teeth, and now they're fighting full force. Now they're like, you know, oh, you people are really horrible. You know, you're picking on poor X, Y, and Z. You're all a bunch of rapists and misogynists, and never mind all the shit that we're doing behind the scenes. But yeah, you know, you guys are the horrible people, and we gotta create our own type of gamer because you gamers aren't good enough. And people are warring against that. They're like, fuck you guys. You know what? We don't need you. We haven't needed you in a long time. I mean, we got YouTube. So, yeah, again, they're growing teeth. They're fighting back. It's a total stalemate because neither side wants to fucking move. And eventually we're going to win just to have a war of attrition. I mean, we can go without fucking Kotaku for months. That's not a big fucking deal. We got YouTube. If you want to look up a game, look up a Let's Play. You can watch the game live, and provided you have enough earplugs for the "Hi guys, I'm playing a game and this is awesome and whoa, that's cool," or "This game sucks."
Yeah, well, there's a quick solution called the mute button.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? There's actually a better solution. Max, do you want to bring it up?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. As I said, right now we are currently at a stalemate, and as much as I don't want to bring up the fact, but it seems, based on some of the tweets and messages I've seen from certain people, some people are kind of wondering what to do next, and albeit there's been some impressive progress made by the gamers, seeing as how the journalists have basically cut all ties with their demographic, they're kind of wondering, it's like, is anything happening? Are we winning? Or more importantly, so what do we do next? And I do think we have a proposition that unfortunately we haven't seen really promoted anywhere else.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, I mean, we have tried to promote this group in the past on our Facebook and Twitter accounts, but we believe we can do more good by actually voicing our support for them.
Yeah, our support for them is a little too little too late, I think, because they made their goal. What we gotta say more is what we're supporting the idea behind these guys. That, you know, if we want more girls in gaming, then, you know, hey, let's support them. Gamers are supporting gamer girl game developers.
Okay, so for those of you who are familiar with the whole Zoey Quinn #Quinnspiracy thing, you might remember that about a year ago or so, Zoey Quinn basically put a damper on a group that actually tried to actively get more women involved in game design. Essentially, what their campaign boiled down to is they would find women who are interested in making more games. They would pair them up with professional game designers who would listen to their ideas and then do all the work and make that idea come to fruition as a fully fleshed out games. In return, the woman who was responsible for the initial idea, she gets 8% of the royalties, and all the money that these guys make from the game goes to charity. A worthy cause, a meritocratic cause, I would say, but not according to Zoey, because according to her, this was exploitative and abusive, and she made her damnness not only to shut down this campaign, but to even dox the people behind it.
Yep.
This person, a self-proclaimed feminist, just herself stood in the way of fucking progress, getting more women involved in...
It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, look, we don't want to go too deep into the whole Zoey Quinn thing, so let's not mince words and say that we're talking about the fine young capitalists here. They're back, and initially our idea was just to make a quick video promoting their Indiegogo campaign, but we don't have to do that anymore because, good news, just a couple of days ago, they reached their goal of, I believe it's $65,000, and they're actually going to go ahead and actually do what they promised.
Yep. Yeah, speaking of putting money where our mouth is, Max and I both contributed to the Fine Young Capitalists because we thought it was a worthy goal. I mean, if you want to see more women, you know, programming in games, why not put your money where your mouth is?
Absolutely. And the reason why we're talking about the Fine Young Capitalists right now is because we believe that this is a way for gamers to put, as we said, to put their money where their mouths are and actually do some good, because it's a win-win situation. Because here's the thing, for the past 2 years, we've been bombarded by all of these articles claiming that all of these misogynistic gamers are standing in the way of progress, and that once more women, or rather once more feminist women, embrace, or rather infiltrate, the gaming industry, that's when we'll enter a new enlightened age, free of misogyny and bigotry, free of all of these nefarious gamers, and we're gonna have more enlightened games like Gun Home and less of that testosterone-filled action games.
With the women running around fucking stainless steel bikini thongs. Jesus, how anyone can take any of that shit seriously is fucking beyond me. But it totally befuddles me. Or, sorry, it just pisses me off that they say that gamers are horrible people when you look at stuff like Child's Play, for instance, a charity where they basically give money and games to kids who are at St. Jude's Hospital. I mean, these are like kids with cancer and stuff, and they do a lot of good. And of course, you have stuff like Humble Bundle, which, you know, you pay a couple bucks to give to Red Cross or the EFF or even, again, St. Jude's Hospital and Child's Play, and you get a couple games out of it. I think gamers are probably some of the more open-minded people of the entire fucking generation, to be honest. Because what I mentioned in the first Yellow Gaming Journalism podcast is that games are virtual experiences, and you can see through the eyes of other people, other characters in those games. Again, you know, I use the example of guys playing as female characters and getting hit on, getting catcalls, getting, you know, a bunch of genuinely sexist comments, etc., and being treated like crap. in our interview video, we made mention of, you know, being able to play as Lee from The Walking Dead.
Yes.
And, you know, if you're a white kid, you get to play through the eyes of a black guy. And, you know, you encounter a little bit of racism in the game. But, you know, you also see that, you know, there's not a huge fucking difference between people. I mean, it's really an amazing thing. So I see gamers as being more likely to fund and crowd support ventures by female programmers.
Yes.
Who want to make games.
Well, that's basically what they have done, because
Absolutely.
Because who do you think funded the Finding Capitalist Indiegogo campaign? It was gamers.
And 4chan.
Which has royally pissed off all of those hashtag progressives out there.
Yeah, and here's the thing is, 4chan, they're getting the same bad rap as gamers are. I mean, granted, gamers, 4chan, they're people. I mean, I don't get what this this massive amount of stereotyping is all about. They're people. There's bound to be a few rotten eggs in both parties, but you can't overgeneralize people. 4chan's bad. Gamers are all bad. It's bullshit.
Yes.
So what 4chan did, they kind of led the way on the Fine Young Capitalist thing, is they ponied up and started donating money to this cause.
Yes.
Because they're not horrible people, but then of course in the gaming journalists hear about this and they're like, oh, the Fine Young Capitalists, they're taking 4chan's dirty money.
Yes.
Those horrible pedophiles and anarchists and sadists and hackers, and oh my god, how dare they? That's all sarcasm in case anybody doesn't realize that. I don't want to get doxxed. This guy says that 4chan is full of pedophiles, and I'm like, no, I'm being sarcastic, god damn it. It's the exact same thing with the fucking gamers. Oh, all gamers are massive fucking misogynists, and they go home and they beat their girlfriends, and they neglect their kids, and yeah, basement dwellers, you know, the whole entire fucking stereotype.
Yes, of course. Well, here's the funny thing about the Finding Capitalist getting backed by 4chan. Who really cares where the money came from? And when I say that, I don't mean it in a Zoey Quinn, oh, guess what, turns out everyone's in bed with one another and everyone's trying to make money off of this thing. I mean, if there's a campaign and it turns out that I'm just using them as an example, but like a group like the Finding Capitalist, and it turns out that it was, say, funded by someone who's already in the industry, like, for example, Team Schafer or whoever, and basically this is just one massive, like, tax write-off, that's one thing. But if it's a genuine crowdfunding campaign and you have people who don't have to donate any money, but if they want to, they can volunteer, they can essentially volunteer and fund this project, then who cares where all of this money came from? The only reason why they care is because it basically disrupts their narrative. Because, like I said, for the past 2 years, we've been told that gamers are misogynists, they're standing in the way of progress, etc., etc. And here we have the very same gamers backing a campaign that promotes more women getting involved in game design.
Yep.
Meanwhile, what are the hashtag progressives supporting? They're still supporting Anita, a self-centered, factually incorrect web series that doesn't really amount to anything. It's not getting more women involved in game design, but that's the horse they bet on, and that horse, it basically fell flat on its face before even entering the track. But now they gotta stick to it because they can't jump tracks, because otherwise it's gonna be revealed that they're full of shit.
Oh, they're trying to jump track though. That's exactly what they're fucking doing. Like that picture of the picture that Internet Aristocrat posted about our good old friend Matt Lees, all of a sudden backtracking, saying, "Come on, guys, we just need to sit down and talk about games. Enough of this politics." It's like, fuck you, buddy. You've been talking about this shit yourself.
More importantly, the title of his video is, "Why can't we just talk about video games?" and I stress the talk part. And meanwhile, the comments in his videos are freaking disabled.
Brilliant! Love it! This is the kind of bullshit that they're trying to peddle in front of you guys, folks. They close off any type of dissension. They talk about what they want to talk about. They hear what they want to hear, until they realize that there's a backlash, and all of a sudden they start backpedaling, and they gotta dance backwards, and they're like, "Oh, come on, guys, you know what I said before, you guys don't remember that, any of that shit, right? We gotta talk about games now, right?"
Now he wants to talk about video games. Whereas 2 months ago, if you go and rewatch our Yellow Game Journalism podcast, his exact words are, "All these people, they can fuck off. I don't want to listen to their 1K opinions, etc., etc." And now he wants to have an open discussion. Good job, Matt Lees. Hashtag consistency.
Yep, and just like the Gandhi quote, we win. Because once Kotaku's revenue and viewership starts to drop.
Yes.
When all these other game outlets realize that they're isolating the people who they sell their shit to, the fact that they're overgeneralizing the people who they sell their shit to, then yeah, that's gonna cause such a fucking financial ripple that they'll have no choice but to backpedal and rethink their strategy and create a new, I guess, what did escapists do? They create a new constitution or some shit.
Yeah, we're gonna be devoted to transparency from now on, you know. And
you gonna fire Jim Sterling? What?
Oh, never mind Jim Sterling. How about Movie Bob?
oh god, fucking hell, yeah.
The fucking poster boy for basement dwellers.
You know what?
I mean, there's pictures of him, like, you know, armor. You know the floating hand thing that they always say that, like, you know, the nerds have to do around like booth babes and stuff. You know, they put their arm around the woman and they kind of have it floating over top of the shoulder.
Yes.
Because, you know, don't touch me. But you see him full arm embrace Anita Sarkeesian. And it's like, yep, this is going to be objective.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, the thing is, to go on a quick tangent here, I've been reading the Finding and Capitalist Tumblr account, and in one of the most recent posts, whoever runs that account, he does a great job summarizing what the problem is. First of all, he compares gaming journalism to like entertainment news. That it's not proper investigative journalism, you don't really learn anything, that it's all about just publishing, it's all about peddling articles that sell.
It's about 20 fucking websites publishing the same fucking article.
Yeah. There's as far as all this SGW stuff goes, it's really no different from something like TMZ posting articles like, oh, the 15 most fabulous dresses at this year's Oscars, etc. It's essentially
fluff.
Yeah, it's essentially clickbait is what it is. And then he makes a good point by saying that like about 2 years ago or so, we've seen the rise of internet personalities, so to speak, and how we have various Let's Players like PewDiePie, Game Grumps, and the rest of them, how they seem to attract much more viewers than whatever all of these professional game sites put out all the articles and the videos, etc. So, what they decided to do is they decided to shift demographics, because the most popular idea of a gamer is a male aged somewhere between 18 and 35. And most of those people are just interested in games. Meanwhile, if they find themselves a new demographic that might be interested in buying more stuff, i.e. they get themselves more sponsors and advertisers, that could be more beneficial. Hence, about 2 years ago, they started writing all of these articles about how there's a lack of complex female protagonists in games, and how we need to get more women involved, and how certain journalists are ashamed to be a part of this misogynistic industry, etc. Basically, all of this pandering to attract a new demographic. And guess what? They failed, because the only women they've managed to attract are the third wave feminists who aren't really interested in games. And meanwhile, the women that they did have, who just care about the video games, they've alienated them because they've basically vilified them as not being true feminists or being brainwashed by the patriarchy, etc.
Which is unfortunate too, because when you look at like some of the data, like in Nick B's book, The Proteus Paradox, I'm actually asked you to pull your copy off the shelf and flip through it real quick. But like programming has, until the last 2 or 3 decades, has predominantly been done by women.
Yes, especially after World War II and all that
Exactly,
stuff.
during and after World War II and up until I think the mid-80s, the majority of the programming, computer programming, was done by women. And you could say that, you know, it was considered women's work or something like that. I mean, there's always stereotyped jobs and job roles, and you know, it was just more of a job that appealed to women than men. Then all of a sudden you see this paradigm shift, and men became the primary programmers, and of course video games, you know, started to rise in the later bit of the 1980s and early 1990s, and you know, more men were the programmers. And if you look at how the games were marketed, they were marketed mostly to boys.
Yes.
Because if you look like through an old episode or an old issue of Nintendo Power, you know, it's always, you know, teenage boys playing video games. So it's not saying that, you know, they were denying and taking the control away from girls, but the focus was on boys. So.
Yes, that was their demographic at the time.
And the fact that, we're expanding the demographic. I mean, if a girl comes over to your house, and that's a big if for some of you.
Yeah, let's be perfectly honest, for us too.
Oh, okay, fine, sure. If you want to believe that, Max, and make yourself feel better in my company, then... No, I was kidding. But, if a girl comes over to your house, or if you're at a gaming party or something like that, and a girl wants to play, do you take the controller away from her and say no? Fuck that.
No, your place is in the kitchen.
You need to be making me a sandwich while I play Madden. God damn. This is what they think we are. And again, I can understand some of like the sexy outfits and stuff and characters and whatnot. I can understand that. I don't approve of it, but I can understand it. But we don't have this fucking pillow fort that says no girls allowed.
Yes.
It doesn't make any goddamn sense. The idea of any type of medium, movies, books, whatever, is to get more people to buy your shit. So why would you intentionally alienate half of the fucking world's population?
There's really no reason, and to be perfectly honest with you, I think most guys who like video games, they would love for more women to embrace gaming, because if that's the case, then they have more stuff in common, they have more things to talk about.
More things to do as a couple.
More things to do as a couple, yeah, more.
You can stick fucking rock picks through each other's heads in Minecraft.
Yes. Well,
I killed you, honey. I killed you too.
Well, that could be a good argument dissolver, or just like a stress ball or something.
Yeah, I know. If there's like 2-player Grand Theft Auto, it'd be like, okay, the woman would be like, okay, honey, now kill the prostitute, give me the money.
But do it slowly. I like to watch.
Oh God! Wow, this is really getting off on a tangent.
Right. But to get back on track, I think now would be a good time to explain why we think that more good could be, why it's essential for us to put our money where our mouths are and support campaigns like the Financial Capitalists. Or, well, here's the thing: the Financial Capitalists aren't the only gang in town, so to speak.
Right.
Because according to once again a post on their Tumblr blog, there's many more groups like them that are actively trying to get more women involved in game design. Yet, have we heard about any of these groups for the past 2 years?
In the media, you mean? No.
Yes, of course not. Because as we said a long time ago, the moment that you start suggesting solutions and the problem starts to evaporate, there's nothing you can write about anymore. There's no sensationalism.
Yep. All these, activists and whatnot would be out of a job. They won't be able to make a career out of it, people. How dare you deprive them of, food from their own mouths?
Yes, I mean, all these poor journalists, they'll have to focus on talking about...
They'll actually have to do journalism.
Exactly. They'll have to write about stuff like game theory, game mechanics. They'd have to apply critical thinking and objectivity and actually give games fair scores. Actually, this is a funny little joke, but yesterday I saw a fun little video on YouTube. It's part of a series called V as in 4chan, V the musical. And what they did there, they took remember that song from Mulan, I'll Make a Man Out of You?
Yeah.
And they made a parody that's called I'll Make a Journalist Out of You. Yes, where essentially the idea is you have all these journalists that are basically peddling out all of these 9.5 scores to terrible games, and at the end, the main guy, the general, that Mulan's love interest, that basically he teaches them how to apply critical thinking, and at the end, once they become more competent, they start giving games like Battlefield and Call of Duty like 4 out of 10, 2 out of 10. Gun Home gets a fucking 2 out of 10. It's really great. I'll probably leave a link in the description of this.
You need to, because I need to watch that also. That's fucking beautiful. I was gonna say, you said the journalists giving games fair scores, and you said, oh, that's a joke. And I'm like, yeah, it is a joke. especially when Kane and Lynch. This is an old fucking example, but it's no less true. Square Enix was spending a ton of money on putting Kane and Lynch ads all over, I think, GameSpot.
Yes.
And then GameSpot gives them a bad review because the game wasn't up to par, and GameSpot fires the reviewer. If you're giving presents or body parts to journalists, wow, there's no integrity.
Yes, well, that's why the gamers are asking for more transparency, because only now, after so much essentially investigative journalism on, once again, the gamers' part, not the journalists, only now we're realizing that, oh, wait a second. The reason why everyone kept harping about games like Dear Esther and whatnot was because either the journalists were in a romantic or a sexual relationship with the creator of the game, or in the case of all those yearly competition that they have, they basically preemptively decided who's going to be the winner. For the longest time, we kept talking about how the indie scene is going to save gaming and whatnot, and
which I still believe,
which we still believe, but not when it turns out that the indie scene has turned into a mob. Essentially, hashtag cronyism is what it is.
Well, here you can't overgeneralize the indie scene here either. Just the way that these people can't overgeneralize gamers. The indie scene, I think, is still going to be the best way for women to get into game development.
Well, obviously, yes.
You could do stuff like pre-release games. You can do Kickstarter, or right. You can do crowdfunding, and women who are programmers will be able to at least get a fair shot at having their game created through Steam Greenlight, for instance. Mm-hmm. I see this as being the way that the quickest and most effective way of getting more women into game development.
Right.
To be honest.
And just to clarify, when I said the indie scene, I was talking about that Zoey Quinn clique that's happening right now, that because they seem to have the monopoly, because one of the screen caps I've seen, I forget who it was, but it was someone who was questioning. Essentially, I think like a journalist was asking a part of a gaming team about like, hey, what's going on with the whole Zoey Quinn thing? To which the other person responded like, look, you don't really want to dig deep into this, because if you want to be successful in this industry, you better be Zoe's friend.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's why I said that the indie scene, or rather that part of the indie community, they've become the mafia in a certain sense.
They become the fucking SS. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be Hitler's friend, otherwise, you could disappear.
Yeah, you've got to join the party. Don't be
yeah, the party. Oh God.
Don't be stupid. Be a smarty. Come and join the Nazi party.
Jesus.
Yeah, but to get back, but to once again, at least try and get back on track. You're absolutely right. The indie scene does seem to be the best way for women to get into more games, and that's what the finance capitalists are doing. Mm-hmm. And they're not the only ones, because as I tried to previously explain, there are other groups that are doing that, some of which happen to be Girls Make Games, Pixels, Black Girls Code, Code Liberation, Dames Making Games, Ladies Learning Code, Girl Geeks Toronto, and many, many others, of which we're only now learning about, again, thanks to gamers.
Wow.
Because the journalists aren't going to write about them, which you would think they would do, because, like I said, for the past 2 years, we've been hearing about the necessity of getting more women involved in gaming, and here are these groups that are doing that.
No, Max, you see, they have to get the right women into gaming, because they're the people they're fucking.
Well, not only that, but I've been reading some of the posts from whoever runs the Finance Capitalist blog, and despite the fact that he does believe in certain what these hashtag progressives would believe are ideas of feminism, to me that person comes off more as an egalitarian, because they acknowledge the sexual dimorphism, the biological differences between men and women, and they are more about hashtag meritocracy and hashtag creativity than they are about pushing a certain agenda. So of course, because they don't subscribe to the same narrative as these journalists do, of course they don't get any promotion. Actually, here's a funny thing, I just remembered about this, but there was an article like 2 weeks ago from Game Sutra, a website that's right in the middle of all this conspiracy thing going on, where they've actually acknowledged the finance capitalists, but the headline read something like, okay, look, it's really, the finance capitalists might be doing a noble thing by getting more women involved in game design, but this doesn't absolve them from scrutiny, which I agree with, because everything needs to be scrutinized. But let me ask you this, pal. Where the hell was this rational and critical thinking when 2 years ago, when Anita started her goddamn Kickstarter campaign?
It was all on Thunderfoot's channel.
Now they're trying to be objective.
Now, here's the thing, and Max is absolutely right, and to an extent this guy is too. We believe in meritocracy. If a game looks good, regardless of man, woman, developer, put your money into it.
Yes.
Although, if the game's not good, it's just not good.
And regardless of the gender of the protagonist.
Right. Oh, no. Regardless of the gender of the developer.
Yes, that too.
If a game's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. However, there's some things that we should be genuinely looking at. If this is an issue that needs rectified and more women need to be inside game development, then these should be some outlets where we can kind of get that ball rolling a little bit. You know, I mean, because the next Tim Schafer, or Mrs. Tim Schafer, I don't know, could be, you know, coming from just about anywhere.
Yes.
Which is why I always supported the indie movement, because, you know, a great idea can come from anybody. So if you believe that there should be more women in game development, then look for such, you know, Kickstarter type of projects. And if it's a good idea, if it's good, then fund it, by all means.
Absolutely, because that's the reason why we decided to back the Finding Capital, is because, like, you know, for the past 2 years we've been hearing about the necessity of getting more women involved in game design.
Right.
Yet when the Finding Capitalists tried doing their campaign the first time around, you have Zoey Quinn, a self-proclaimed feminist, putting a damper on this entire thing and standing in the way of progress. So the game...
How dare you let these women design games?
Yeah, that hashtag hypocrisy thing. But what I'm trying to say here is that those games never get to see the light of day. And now, because their campaign was successful, they might see the light of day. And now we can actually, essentially playtest these games and see if they are any good. Because, you know, the more darts we throw at the board, some of them are gonna be hit and miss, but some of them are gonna stick.
Right.
So the more creative games we can get, the better.
Because when I went to the Fine Young Capitalist site, their Indiegogo page, there's a couple games that actually looked really good. The first one of which was Afterlife Empire, which it kind of has, like, you know, a Sims kind of vibe to it, possibly. But there's also an old Sega Genesis game. I think it's called The Haunting, where you play this ghost punk rocker looking guy, and you scare all the inhabitants of the house. And it sounds like shit though, but it's actually fun to play. And this kind of gives me that vibe, where you're basically haunting the house. And the other one that looked interesting from like an aesthetic standpoint is the game Lux, because I don't know, it looks like a puzzler, but it just has a really cool art look, lots of crystals and that kind of stuff. So.
Yes. And these are just like I think there's like 5 games right now that they're trying to make. And if this thing booms, if this thing grows and more women get involved and more games get made.
Good games, good games.
Good game. Like I said, some of them might be hit and miss, but we'll never know unless we try.
Anyways, it's just like what Rich Evans said in his last previously recorded. Like he's a fan of like the strategic grid turn-based combat system in games like XCOM.
Yeah.
And he says that, you know, these are games that have become outdated in a lot of ways, though. But now all of a sudden, thanks to Kickstarters and thanks to early access game development, we're seeing a resurgence of these kinds of games in new and unique ways. So it's broadening the types of games we have, besides, you know, 2D platformer and first-person shooter, into more interesting directions. There should be something for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm not like a huge fan of that kind of genre you described, but there are other types of games that are seeing a resurgence, because recently, was it like a year ago or 2 years ago, but we got a new installment of Leisure Suit Larry. Yep,
that one was redone top to bottom, and as sexist as it is... But that's just it. There should be a whole plethora of games, more availability. If you don't want to play Leisure Suit Larry, nobody's going to hold a gun to your head and say, play it. If you don't want to fund, like the Fine Young Capitalists or any of these types of crowdfunding programs,
you don't have to.
Nobody's putting a gun to your head and saying, fund them. Crowdfunding is the option to fund something. And for someone to come in with a totalitarian fucking viewpoint and say, we're going to take down this crowdfunding thing so people can't contribute to you, that's bullshit.
That's selfish, that's self-centered, and no, then again, it's Zoey Quinn, so what do we expect?
Yes.
Yeah, but
it's one big hypocrisy.
Like we said, the reason why we did this recording is to promote an alternative solution, so to speak, to the whole game.
One of many.
One of many. We're not saying this is the only one, and we're not saying this is the right one, but this is just one that we haven't seen talked about all that much. Originally, we wanted to record this while the Indiegogo campaign was still going on, but now they've reached their goal and they're no longer accepting donations. But still, if you are interested in their group, you can go to their website, which we will link in the description box of this video, and you can monitor their progress, and you can learn about other groups that are doing this. And as we said numerous times over the course of this recording, put your money where your mouth is, if you want to.
Then, if you have a little bit of extra spare time, go on Google and look up the mainstream gaming journalism sites and see how many people are reporting on these types of products.
So basically, this week we got 2 messages from 2 different people, but they're sort of asking the same thing, so we're sort of going to combine our response. So the first message comes from Rob, and Rob mentions the fact that in our interview video with the Dracarium, we, or rather I, namely, mentioned the fact that there aren't a lot of Let's Play shows out there that sort of inform the viewer about the history of the video game, provide some trivia, and basically try to retain your interest with useful information versus over-the-top, wacky hijinks. And so what he asks is, he actually made a Let's Play video himself and asked for a critique, and we did respond to him privately.
Yep.
But then there was also a Facebook message where a certain individual, whose name escapes me at the moment, asked us if there's any kind of advice we can provide to an up-and-coming YouTuber. So, like we said, we've basically decided to combine our 2 responses and make one unified what-to-do guide for you people.
Right, and step 1 is don't listen to us. I also... Shit, fucking microphone keeps falling over. See? This is professionalism, people. God fucking damn it. Anyways, the first thing we always do is we open up with like a self-deprecatory response, like, you know, thanks for asking us though, but you know, you shouldn't be. Because we realize we don't have all the answers. Number one, we don't have more than what, 12,000, 13,000 subscribers now. So yes. we're not the authorities of jack shit on YouTube. Mm-hmm. However, there's a couple of things that we can probably just suggest to people who are just want to, you know, kind of get set off on the right foot and kind of do their own thing. Right, so just a couple of pitfalls you can avoid. Right. The first thing I would suggest, and this is an old belief of mine, is to make friends in business, don't do business with friends. Mm-hmm. And this has been something I've been telling everybody since, wow, years ago, is that you have to look at things like if you're going to have like a co-creator on a YouTube channel or something, you want somebody who you know will get the job done. Yes. I.e. somebody who has the same drive, the same passions as you do. The same work ethic. Exactly. That's just, especially the work ethic. Because, you know, me and Max and I, sorry. We met each other on forums and we kind of started talking to each other and we kind of realized we kind of clicked, you know, as far as like, you know, what our goals and stuff were and ambitions and work ethic. Same thing with Mike and Jay. If you listen to their Gorilla Interrupted commentary on their DVD, Red Letter Media, just tossing that out. But yeah, you want to find someone who has the same work ethic as you do, because when you try to do business with friends, it's nothing but a fucking disaster, as we've constantly learned. I've learned even before doing anything with CCS, because you have to consider that friends are friends and not really business partners. They're the kind of people who, if you hire a friend to paint your house, you'll be sitting in a bar with them and saying, hey, you know, by the way, I asked you to paint my house 2 weeks ago. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, you know, well, they'll give you an excuse and, you know, let's have another beer first, you know, and then they'll say, hey, by the way, can I sleep on your couch? These types of people are not to be going into any type of like actual like creative venture with, unless you've established their work ethic. You know, I've had many ideas, many friends, and none of them do jack shit to make any of these ideas a reality. They're all dreamers, not doers. So seriously, make friends with business, don't do business with friends. Mm-hmm. My second criticism is like the guy who asked about creating a Let's Play. The first thing I'm going to say is, if you enjoy doing it, go ahead and do it. Absolutely. I mean, don't let us tell you not to do something. Don't let anyone else really tell you not to do anything, unless you get like, you know, a bajillion criticisms, and then maybe you have to rethink something. At the same time, do what you love, but you should be open for other ideas. Like if you look at most of the biggest personalities on YouTube right now,
yes,
a lot of them didn't end up where they started. I'll use Angry Joe as an example. He started off making this video with him and the Bill O'Reilly conniption, where he's basically heckling him from off stage or something like that. And then he went on to do like that, what was that Yell video, where he and his friends are dancing by dumpsters.
Oh Jesus! I don't remember any of this.
It's a photographic memory. It's horrible. All the shit in there just won't get out. I gotta drink more bleach. Anyways, but a lot of these people, they start off one place and they end up somewhere completely different. So you might have an idea of, I'm gonna make this show, and somewhere down the line you might try doing something else and it'll catch wildfire.
Right, it's more often than not, it's a trial and error process.
Yeah, I mean, where Max and Ken and B-Mask all started is not where they ended up, and additionally myself as well. So yeah, be open for other types of things as they come along. Don't say I'm going to do Let's Plays and it's just going to be Let's Plays and whatnot, and then all of a sudden you get a good idea and it's like, sorry, I'm too busy doing my Let's Plays. I'm not going to pursue this other idea. So be open for everything. You never know what'll catch, what won't. So the next suggestion I would have is Basic Marketing 101 says that people have no attention spans. I mean, that's pretty self-evident now. Nowadays, but why do you think the CCS podcast has such a high viewership? All the flashy images and yeah, but people have no attention span, so you want to get into the nitty-gritty almost immediately. You have about 3 to 5 seconds to catch someone's attention. Don't spend a lot of time, you know, having a long intro video. Don't spend a lot of time having, you know, a loading screen or something like that if you're doing a Let's Play. Jump straight into the action so people will immediately start watching. For example, like PewDiePie, he immediately like almost gets right onto it. You know, hey guys, welcome up, bro. I'm PewDiePie, and you know, fist bump, and now let's play the game.
Yeah, a brief introduction, and you know, let's get on with the show.
Yeah, exactly, brass tacks. Because people are impatient. If the first couple minutes of your video are a loading screen of the game you're gonna play, nobody's gonna fucking sit down and watch that.
No.
I mean, I'll give them 5 seconds at most. So just a heads up. The next thing I'd suggest is kind of creating a persona of sorts. Not necessarily, you know, bombastic and hyperactive type like PewDiePie.
Yes, persona, not a character.
Make a presence that people can connect with. I mean, you know, people look at you and they start listening to you and they're like, okay, what are you? Are you the wacky reviewer? Are you the smooth talker? Are you the snarky cynic? Are you the educated gamer? Etc. People need to know what your personality style is almost immediately, because if you're dull and monotone, then people are just gonna give up.
Yeah, because if you're doing a Let's Play show, then people just have your voice, so they need something to identify with. They can't really see you, so they expect you to convey your personality via playthroughs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for better or worse, people like PewDiePie and Markiplier and stuff like that, they have a personality, and that's why you watch their Let's Play videos more than other people's Let's Play videos.
True?
Yeah, there's a long pause. True, but it is true, because people, I'm not a fan of the guy myself though, but people like PewDiePie because of his personality.
So these are the suggestions that we can give you people at present time. This is just something that we've learned via trial and error, and there's no guarantee that this is going to work for you, but nevertheless, just like I said, keep experimenting. Try seeing what works for you best, because otherwise there's no real defined formula to success.
But as we're still looking.